Welcome to Success in Motion. Join us as we dive deep with top leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals, uncovering strategies to grow, scale, and succeed.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Success in Motion podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and I'm joined by Ronald Grant. Ronald is a self-proclaimed knucklehead who has been transformed to the basically the CFO of Metro Tech. His exact title is Senior Director of Business and Finance. And he has actually taken the last 15 or so years and dedicated to finding knuckleheads and putting them on the path to success. So I'm super excited to have him on the podcast. Hopefully he can help this knucklehead get pointed in the right direction as well. Ronald, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. I really look forward to our conversation, Michael.
Excellent. So give us a quick snapshot of your business right now.
Yeah, so I'm at Metro Technology Centers, also known as Metro Tech. We serve somewhere around 1,700 students. So we serve secondary or high school students and adult students. We have many trade programs, everything from cosmetology, welding, nursing, just so many different programs, hands-on programs, which I think is really missing in some of the K-12 schools that I've been in, the comprehensive schools. And so this is an opportunity for students to really put their hands to work and then make some money right away. Most of our programs are about 18-month or 2-year programs.
Awesome. I love that. So a lot of people think that you need to go to a 4-year degree to be able to make a good living, to make a good life for yourself. But at Metro Tech, you teach people that's not true, right?
That's absolutely right. And then also, because you're absolutely 100% right. There are people who believe that, hey, to make a livable wage, you have to go to college. That's absolutely not true. We have students, they can take our aviation maintenance program and make, over $50,000, $60,000 right after that program. But then I think another common misconception is that they're mutually exclusive. We have some students who have gone to college, they have a 4-year degree, and then they come back to us to get a certificate, and vice versa. They start with a certificate, some students, and then they end up wanting to go to college. And so I think we kind of help educate on both sides of that they're not mutually exclusive, and you can do either one and still make a livable wage.
I think that's fantastic. There's so many people who get told that they have to go to college, and so they jump into college. They don't know what they want to do, and so they go spend 4 or 5 years out of college trying to get through these classes, and then they end up with a degree in underwater basket weaving. And now, once they graduate, they're like, okay, now what do I do, right? Because
Mhm.
there's no real demand for whatever it is that they've gone to school for, and now school doesn't actually teach you how to take that knowledge and turn it into uh, a paycheck. They just teach you knowledge, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the key things that our education system is lacking. But at a trade school, that's not necessarily the case. They teach you a real skill that you can then go and apply to go get an actual job where you're going to immediately get resources. How have you seen that this program at the trade school has really affected the students that go through there?
Yeah, well, I always think that the most important, the key component of any educational system is really the relationships between the adults and the students. Whether the students are adult students or, again, high school, secondary students, it doesn't matter. But the number one thing are those relationships. And I think what I've seen here at Metro Tech are very strong relationships with instructors who have experience in the field. So exactly to your point, they know that it's not just the information, it's the application of information. But then you have to add to that, I don't like the term soft skills, but people skills. They add all this other stuff because you can be the most excellent, we'll just stick with cosmetology. You could be the most excellent, stylist or barber or whatever. But if you don't have the people skills, to be able to establish relationships with your clients and make them feel welcome and and make them feel good, then it doesn't really matter. And so I think our instructors, because they have that real world experience, they're able to add so much more value to just the delivering of knowledge.
So, uh, I know there's a lot of different programs out there, but roughly, what does it cost to get uh, go through the course there at the Metro Tech?
So it's going to vary by program. And then also we have for Oklahoma City students, anybody who is in our district, they can get different assistance. But I'll stick with aviation. I know aviation is one of our more expensive programs. And I don't have it memorized off the top of my head, but I want to say it's somewhere probably around $6,000. And this is a 2-year program that will give them a certification that will allow them to make, over $50,000 here in Oklahoma City, because Oklahoma City does have a booming aerospace industry.
So you're telling me that I can go spend 2 years in a classroom and spend $6,000 and do that, and then go get a job making $50,000, or I could do like I did and go spend 4.5 years at a university, get a degree, and go make $50,000. I
Yes.
don't really understand what's going on there, right? Now, obviously, I've moved from that first job, but straight out of college, like you're making about the same thing straight out of college versus this aviation course that you're talking about,
Mhm.
and it takes half the time and a fraction of the cost. Why do you think that the Metro Tech is able to do it at such a reduced rate versus a 4-year college?
Well, there's probably a very long answer to that, but I'll try to just say that our tuition right now is set at $3.25 an hour. And that's the short answer, right? If you go to like a university education, I mean, because you've gone to college, I've gotten 3 degrees, from the University of Oklahoma, and tuition is a lot more than $3.25 an hour. So the short answer is that. But then also, I think we've worked really hard to kind of streamline and ensure that the students are leaving with the practical knowledge and skills to pass their certification tests. So there aren't a lot of extras. There aren't electives. There aren't basics. The way that there are in other postgraduate or post high school type courses. So I think a combination of those two things, you're getting the meat of what you really need to learn, and you're getting it at a very, very low price per hour.
Yeah, I mean, 350 an hour is very reasonable for to get set up with a degree or a certificate that can get you immediately into the workforce and cut your time in half to get into the workforce. I think that's fantastic. And you're right. If you go in and you get your certificate or your degree from some place like Metro Tech and you get into the workforce, now you have income coming in. You
Mhm.
can still take that and go to college and then pay your way through college and be able to get that 4-year degree. Do the credits from Metro Tech transfer to a 4-year degree? Okay.
No, no. So it's a different accrediting body, and I think there's a whole lot more nuance to that. But our courses do not transfer into 4-year institutions.
Okay. And at the end of the day, it's not just about will it transfer, but when I went to college, I ended up getting married. I had a
Mhm.
kid, and I had to figure out life real fast at that point.
Mhm.
And the way I went through, I didn't have a job that I was making $50,000 a year while I was in college. I
Mhm.
had a job that I was barely making ends meet, and it
Yep.
was a struggle. And so I actually pulled the ripcord in college and found my fastest way out. I didn't go for the degree that I was wanting. I had another way
Mhm.
that I could pivot and I could get out so that I could start earning money for my family. And so if I had had that that certificate or uh, degree
Mhm.
from this program, and I was
Mhm.
making a decent wage, I
Mhm.
could have stuck it out and gotten the degree that I actually wanted, and not had to have stressed so much about finances at that point. And so I think that there's a good opportunity for people to go to a school like this, get real world experience other than working at McDonald's,
Mhm.
and go and figure out what you actually want from life, because also when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. like
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
like most students, you don't figure that out until probably your senior year, and then it's like, oh, did I pick the right
Mhm.
degree? Um,
Mhm.
and then I think it's interesting that for so long we've been hounded this: go to college, get a good job, when
Mhm.
there's so many other options. Um, what is the average wage of someone who leaves your school 5 or 10 years out of uh,
Mhm.
school?
I don't think I can tell you off the top of my head, but I do know that one thing that we look at when we evaluate our programs, or when we just look at our programs, we have advisory committees, and so we invite people from the industry, whatever industry. So let's say auto service. So these will be people from shops, from dealerships, right? Who will advise the instructors on emerging technology or things that are coming up. And one of the things that we ask in those, kind of committees is, what is a livable wage, right? What is the what is the median, wage for somebody in your area, so that we have recruiters that go into high schools and recruit students, and we want to give them accurate information so they can make a well-informed decision. We're not going to tell them, hey, you're going to make $25 an hour, $50 an hour, if that's not what it actually is. So I don't know what the average is, and, especially, a few years removed from the program, but it is something that we advertise, just kind of plainly to students, so that they make the best decision possible.
Yeah, that's great because when I went to college, nobody was telling me, okay, if you go study this, you can get a job in this and you'll make that, right?
Mhm.
It was all up in the air. It's this black box of you go into college, you come out a millionaire. That's kind of the picture that they paint. But with what you're doing, you're actually giving people a roadmap. If you do these specific steps, you're going to get this result, and this is where it'll take you. And then it'll put you on the
Mhm.
trajectory to get to this other place, which I think is fantastic. It's so much more transparent in
Mhm.
helping people get to what they actually want. Um, so if if somebody wants to get into helping knuckleheads, um,
Mhm.
where do you think they should start if they want to start in this education, and if they want to work with a tech school or something like that?
Man, that's a great question. So I can say from my experience in K-12, I think we were always looking for people to just kind of help and volunteer. There are definitely busy seasons, with back to school being one of the biggest ones. So I would look for ways to volunteer, whether it be a tech school or, again, comprehensive a tech school. Look for ways to volunteer just to be able to connect, and just make sure that you understand. I'm trying to think of this through multiple perspectives, that you understand what the ask is, right? I think a lot of people have come to the school and they're like, this is what I want to do, right? And I want to donate, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And candidly, we don't need that, right? We need this, right? So I think it's a two-way street. Just have an open communication with whoever the leader of that building or that school is that you really want to connect with, and just be open, to receiving what their needs are. And if it doesn't fit, I would find another one. But if you want to donate time and have an audience, with some knuckleheads, and kind of help put them on the right track, let them know that. And if that's not what they need, then find another place. Maybe they say, well, we really just need somebody to volunteer for the sporting events and sell tickets. So, and if that fills your need, then maybe you can do that. But yeah, I think it's just a simple conversation between a leader of a school that you're interested in and yourself, and kind of see what that role may be.
I think that's pretty sound advice. I mean, that can be transferred to anything
Mhm.
in life. Like make sure that what you want to get out of it is what the person needs. Like the if when those goals don't align, you're not going to provide value and you're not going to get the value that you need. That can be anything from doing what you're talking about here, or finding a mentor if you want to find somebody, if you want to shadow somebody, if you want to find somebody who is, say, you want to get into real estate, which is a popular topic these days. Uh,
Mhm.
if you have a skill that they need and they have a resource that you need, which is going to be the education to get your foot in the door, that's a good combination. But if you're offering something that they don't need, that they're already proficient at, that they're better at you then that's probably not the person that you need to go help. You need to go find somebody else. And so whatever it is that you're doing, just make sure that there's that alignment and the values uh, align where you're getting what you need and you're giving what they need. And you'll actually find out that people are really willing to help you when you're helping them, especially
Yeah.
in this tech school range where you're trying to get your foot in the door. Um, so tell me, what has been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome in your career?
There have been many. There have been many. And so I think one is, I mean, just right off the bat, because college was not supposed to be for me, right? I never had any intention. I had never any plan to go to college. Um, and I felt when I finally made that decision, I had a conversation with my girlfriend at the time, and um, long story short, she tells me that she's pregnant, and I was telling her that I'm going to college in Oklahoma, right? I'm from San Antonio, and that was probably, I mean, one of the most difficult conversations I've ever had in my life. And then just kind of reconciling as an 18-year-old, right? What that means to me, or 17 at that time, right? What that means to me in that moment. And then as an 18-year-old, right? Like working through, this long distance, type um, relationship with my, unborn daughter was very difficult. um, I've had, even just negative self-talk, when I was in my doctoral program. Um, my wife and we had our second son when I was in my master's program, right? And so there are all these family events, and they're big, and it's not that they're bad or anything. It's just family events, and it just is what it is. And being able to kind of deal with, these emotions, at the same time dealing with the stresses of trying to continue with my education while also trying to be a good employee, right, while also trying to provide value and love on my students. And I think there's a lot of that, and trying to I think there's a lot of imagery, right, juggling all these things or balancing, and I don't know that they're really adequate to understand that you're really dealing with everything at the same time. You're not letting something go so that you can catch something. You're not juggling anything. There is no balance, right? Sometimes the scales are very, very tipped. um, but I would say that there are multiple examples of that, just kind of in my 20-year career in education, where it's been difficult, and I've really had to turn to my network, and my friends and family to really kind of support me, because I don't feel that we're meant to do life on our own.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that negative self-talk. How do you overcome that?
So I think the first step is just recognizing that you're in the thick of it, um, as soon as you can, right? So I think sometimes, I might be three, four kind of steps into this negative self-talk and just self-doubt, whatever you want to call it, just in a funk, right? Depression, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I catch myself and I'm already kind of like, knee deep, waist deep in it. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so I think the first step is just recognizing I'm not myself right now. Um, and then letting somebody else know. And that I can say, I don't know if it's just, I don't know what it could be attributed to, but that's been a difficult conversation for me to have sometimes. Um, but, being able to trust my wife, being able to trust my friends, saying like, I'm mad right now. You know what I mean? Or I'm upset right now. I'm sad right now. This is really bothering me right now. And then, I mean, I think you made a very astute observation, but then being open and willing to accept what they're giving me, right? That feedback, that they give me, understanding 100% that that's not my truth in this moment, but that's their truth, right? And I need to be able to um, listen to them. I need to be able to believe that there's their truth, even though it doesn't, coincide with what I believe. And then just kind of go from there. But the more or the quicker I've been to get to that place where I'm having a conversation with somebody else outside of my own head, then the quicker I'm able to recover and get back to a sense of normalcy, if we want to call it that, where I can get back to where I feel like myself.
Yeah, you were talking about connecting with those around you, your support system, and
Mhm.
just being vulnerable. That reminded me of a book that I read by Brene Brown called The Power of Vulnerability. And she goes through this book and she talks about how when you're being vulnerable, that's how you actually make connections with people. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, might be something worth
Okay.
checking out. And it helps you see that uh, the world is telling us that we have to put up walls, right? We have to
Mhm.
be strong. We have to have the straight face. We can't show any weakness. But when we do that, we get lonely.
Yeah.
We get isolated. We're separate
Mhm.
from everybody. We can't really truly connect with people. But the moment we start to use vulnerability as a tool to connect, then we realize that you know what, the person I'm talking to, they're not perfect either. And so
Mhm.
you can start finding more commonalities
Mhm.
when you start opening those walls by being vulnerable. And then you can see, well, if this knucklehead can do it, then I can do it,
Mhm.
right? Because they're dealing with
Yep.
their issues, and their issues are potentially way worse than my issues. And
Mhm.
so, if they can still keep on day by day and find progress, then what's keeping me from doing that? And so,
Yep.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that with us. Um, And so let's change gears here a little bit and let's look
Okay.
at this is a buzzword. This is a hot topic that a lot of people are talking about. I like to hear people's explanation of this, and so I always bring it up. But people are talking about work-life balance. They're looking at the juggling their work and their personal life, and
Mhm.
does it have to be balanced? Does it have to be equal? What does that mean to you? Is it a thing, and is it necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a misnomer. I am a full and complete human being, right? Anywhere I am. So if I'm at work, guess what? I'm still a husband, I'm still a father, right? I'm still a brother. Yeah, I'm still all of those things. I don't put that anywhere else and say, you know what? I'm going to be an employee right now, right? I'm going to be a senior director of business and finance, right? I'm a full and complete human being with everything that comes with. And so, um, now, if we want to talk about, I'm a numbers guy, right? I'm in finance, but if we want to talk about in percentages, well, sometimes I'm 99% right into my job and my work, in that moment, and I'm only 1% of all those other things, but I'm never at a place where it's 50-50, or I'm never at a place where, okay, I'm going to be 100% and zero. Um, so I don't know if that really answers the question, but at least the way I think through it is right now I'm with you. I'm going to be fully present with you, right? And I'm going to have maybe these other things kind of ruminating in my mind, So, does my middle son have band practice today? Do I need to pick something up? Oh yeah, I need to get my dry cleaner. So all that stuff is kind of going off in the back of my mind, but I'm going to be fully as possible present with you, and that's what I try to adopt when I'm at home. If my wife and I are out on a date, if I'm out with my guy friends, I'm going to be fully present as much as possible there. And I'm not going to try to be balancing or juggling or checking my phone and sending all these other things, trying to do multitasking. I think is another misnomer. My way to deal with it is just I'm going to be 100%. This is where I'm at. You're in front of me, so you're going to get all of my attention.
I think you said a lot of profound things there. You're right. Just because I am with my family, it doesn't mean that my business stops, right?
Right.
My focus changes, but that
Hmm.
still happens. And so I'm still an employee, a business owner, entrepreneur, whatever it is that my
Hmm.
role is. I still have that weight on my back. When I'm at
Hmm.
work, yeah, I'm dealing with business, but I'm still a
Hmm.
dad. If my kids call me and they need to tell me something, I'm gonna answer the phone. Obviously,
Yeah.
if I'm on the podcast, I'm gonna pause and I'll answer
Yeah.
after, but I'm still gonna wonder what's going on with them. And so there's definitely something of you always carry all of your roles around with you, but I really
Hmm.
like how you brought it home with being present with where you are, and because you can only focus on one thing at a time. People
Hmm.
multitask. It's not actually multitasking, it's task switching. And you can only do that so many times before you get burned out. Some people are better at it than others. Um, but if you are dealing with a client or a big report, whatever it is that you do at your job, right? If you're
Hmm.
focused on that and your phone rings, how long does it take you to get back into that report or back into that conversation after that conversation on your phone? Right? Typically, it takes us quite a while to get back into what's called a flow state. And if we're constantly
Hmm.
being distracted by all of the notifications on our phone, on our computer, people walking into the room, we're never going to hit that flow state. But if you'll take all of your notifications on your phone and turn them off, even if it's
Hmm.
just for an hour, right?
Yep.
Turn them off, go do what you need to get done, get in that flow state. You'll find out that you'll complete those tasks 2 to 3 times faster than if you have notifications dinging all the time. And so I personally think being present is very important in our life. And is there a work-life balance? I really don't know the answer, right? I think it's more of, like you said, be present where you are when you are, and then just make time for everything that you have to do so that you can give it your full focus and attention. Um, well, it sounds like things are going well for you over at the Metro Tech. A lot of people are looking towards the future and how they can create a passive income to enhance or even replace their active income. What are your thoughts about passive income?
Uh, I'll say to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I don't understand how it's supposed to work, but I've always felt better about the money that I really worked hard for. And like I said, I don't know what the prep work is, to kind of set up a passive income stream. As an educator, I've always, not always, but there were times where I had multiple part-time jobs, right, just to supplement income, so I understand that. But for me personally, I think there's kind of like the thrill of the hustle, you know what I mean? The reward of the
Yeah,
hustle, that I can experience, from doing something like that. But whether it's investing, whether it's some other type of setting up a business, that could kind of almost run itself, online or something. um, I don't know that I know enough about it. I like tangible, I like hands-on. Again, just like career tech, right? Hands-on, tangible type things. I like to be able to work hard and see like the sweat of my labor. Okay, this is what I was able to accomplish for it. So at least for me personally, passive income sounds like a great idea. I would love it, right? I would never say no to it, if
yeah.
there was an opportunity. But I think I'd rather, focus on what I can control, and that is what I am actively doing, what I can give my attention to, and then just make the most out of that.
Yeah, that this is actually a topic that a lot of people struggle with. What is passive income? How do
Mhm,
I get this elusive passive income? How do I not fall for some scheme that somebody's telling me is passive income, but really it's
mhm.
anything but passive, or it's just
Yep,
a fake scheme where they're just trying to take my money, right?
yep,
How do you vet those things? How do you understand what it is? I think there's a lot of opportunities out there for passive income. I
mhm,
also think there are a lot of things that are being called passive income that are not passive income,
yep,
and it's a highly misunderstood opportunity.
mhm,
Somebody once on the show told me that you should have seven forms of income, right? Now, no one person can hold seven jobs and do any of them well. It goes back to that multitask thing, right? You
yep,
can only
yep,
focus on one thing at a time. And so you have your day job, that's one form of income.
mhm,
You have your retirement account, right? So
mhm,
maybe you have some stocks, bonds, whatever it
mhm,
is that you're investing in. That's another form. You have your side business that you were talking about, your little side hustle, right? That's another
mhm,
form. You can also say, hey, my brother is really good at what he's doing. His business is
mhm,
booming, so I'm going to go and invest some money in his business. That's a passive income because your brother is the guy who is actually actively going out and doing it, but you're
mhm,
able to take your money and put it to work for you. You've worked hard for this money. And that
mhm,
investing can come anywhere from investing a dollar all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, right? So there's no
yep,
set amount to make that happen. It's just the opportunity. What it goes back to the making sure that your goals are aligned, right? And so if they
mhm,
need $5, then give them $5 and charge them an interest rate on that, right? And
mhm,
then now be sure whoever you're giving that $5 to can pay you back. But
mhm,
there's a lot of places out there that you can create these passive incomes where you can really take your money and put it to work for you rather
mhm.
than having to work for every dollar you get.
Yeah.
Another way of doing a passive income, you mentioned building a business that can kind of take care of itself. And with building a business, you still have to manage the business. You have to
Yep.
make sure there's doing
Yep.
things. But once you get employees, you're
Yep.
now charging for other people's efforts. And
Mhm,
so
mhm,
that is a form of passive income because you're saying 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week,
mhm,
whatever it is, but now you're making income off of employee one's 40 hours a week,
mhm,
employee two's 40, and all of those, right? And so
mhm,
um, I personally think passive income is the crucial key element to building wealth. Too many
mhm,
of us don't get educated on passive income, and then we think that we have to work every day of our life, and then we
mhm,
get to retirement, and we don't have
mhm,
anything set aside for that. because we live paycheck to paycheck every day. And so to get to that, recommend that you take some portion of your daily earnings or monthly earnings and you set that aside and invest it wherever you are most comfortable investing that. If it is in the stock market, go to the stock market. If it's your 401k, your IRA, whatever it is, put money somewhere that it's making money for you. And you'll see that as your earnings increase, your passive income also increases. And if you have a buddy who has a business and you know that you can help him out, he's a good guy and is going to do everything he can to protect your investment, then yeah, go invest with that guy. But make sure you understand his business well enough to know that he's doing a good job at it, right? We don't want to go and invest in someone who's not doing a good job at their business, because that's just giving away money. That's not investing. Anyway, thanks for letting me go down that rabbit hole of passive investing. I love the idea of passive investing. It's just making sure that you understand what the opportunity is and then what you have to put into it and what you're going to get out of it. And if those three things line up with your goals, then at that point you can move forward. Well, Ronald, as we're wrapping up our interview, what exciting plans or initiatives do you have over the next 6 to 12 months?
6 to 12 months. So today is, we just kicked off the beginning of the new fiscal year. And so just ensuring, again, that the finances, at Metro Tech are or everything's going well. We have some kind of plans and some thoughts, we have some projects and things coming up. And so just making sure that we have enough money in reserves and that we have a plan, to be able to accomplish those goals. Personally, I am a firm believer that if you're always prepared, you never have to get ready, right? For that opportunity. And so over the past few years, I've really worked, to kind of put myself in the best position for an assistant superintendent position or a superintendent position. And so that's why I got my doctorate, that's why I've had my superintendent certification. And so I'm looking at other opportunities to make sure that I have not just on paper, right, but that I have the skills and then I'm able to utilize those skills, that a superintendent would need. So I'm looking at, like leadership cohorts, or things where I can network, things that I can develop those skills. And so I'm hoping that, within the next 6 to 12 months, I just finished one this past year. And then I'm hoping that within the next 6 to 12 months, I can look for another opportunity that helps me build my skills and makes me a much better candidate, than I feel like I currently am.
That's awesome. I think that life is all about learning and about gaining experience. And it's awesome to see that you are continuing to grow yourself and not just coasting. I mean, you said you have a doctorate, you have a lot of knowledge there, but it seems like you're always striving to get to that next level and get more experience and more knowledge. That's pretty cool. Well, Ronald, thank you so much for your time today and sharing some tips and insights with us. If people would like to get to know you, connect with you, what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to probably get a hold of me would be via email. And again, we talked about like my focus. And so it's not something that I do 24 hours a day, but anybody who reaches out to me via email, I'll do my best to get back, as soon as possible. But my personal email is just pretty simple. It's just rgrantokc@gmail.com. So if there are any questions, any thoughts, I mean, I can talk more about, my journey from being a knucklehead, to where I currently am, all kinds of stuff. I'm just open to it. If anybody needs any encouragement on pursuing a career in education, I'd love to be that for them because I think it's one of the most noble professions. Definitely been the most rewarding. But again, if people want to get a hold of me, rgrantokc@gmail.com. Well, there you have it, guys. Ronald Grant and the Knucklehead, teaching knuckleheads to not be knuckleheads anymore. We're grateful to have had him on the show, and we're grateful for all of you who listen to us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for tuning into Success in Motion. Want to share your story? Visit successinmotionpodcast.com/guest to apply and be featured on the show.